I want to tell you a story. It's a story about belief. Belief is a very powerful thing if we really believe it. But it's not a powerful thing if we just say, I believe this, or oh, I believe that, and we don't really think about it. We don't consider what that energy actually is. Because belief is an energy, people. And I'm going to give you a few instantiations of how powerful belief is. Now, I've said on many occasions that I don't believe anything. But if we use this energy of belief, then it's useful in the illusion. So I evidently am a very difficult person to understand, because I'm speaking from so many facets all the time from the paradox, because this is the paradox. And so if people want to remember and state to me that you've always said that you don't believe anything, and now you're telling us how powerful belief is. Well, the reason why I don't believe anything, because I don't believe in the fiction of this so-called material world, this so-called reality that we're having as a human being. It's happening in a way in which is different to what most people think. And if you have listened to philosophers throughout the years, starting from thousands of years ago, you will discern that many of them have spoken about belief. And even today, many people speak about belief creates your reality, because there is no actual reality, because the reality derives from human consciousness, and this human consciousness isn't any standardized consciousness. It's different with every single person, with a baby, with a 90-year-old person, with an African, with an Indian, with an Irishman, from culture to culture, from period and epoch to epoch. Consciousness is different. Now, throughout this past 2,000 years in relation to the Old Testament, belief was a very powerful thing. And these religions are premised in belief for a very good reason. Now, when we look at the New Testament, and we will see that Jesus categorically told us that if we believe, and you say to that mountain, move, that mountain will move. That is true. But it's only true in the sense of the fake, false reality. But you could just say, well, belief is powerful and belief is real. Not to complicate things. Okay. So if we take the whole Maya and illusion out of the equation, and we just concentrate on what seems very real to us, if we don't think about it too much. That's the thing, you see, people. If we don't think about things too much, then they appear very real to us. But the more we think about things, the more we investigate things, the more we realise it's all Maya. We realise we're just fooling ourselves. We realise that consciousness is dreaming, and it gets very, very metaphysical. And people, you're going to see in your lifetime how metaphysical things are. Now we're entering into the quantum computer realm, where there isn't a single human being, or even the collective human intelligence hasn't got a single clue how these quantum computers are doing their computation. They have entered into literally another paradigm. They are apparently pulling information from parallel universes. Now, there's only a very, very few people on the planet that can remotely get their heads around this. But people, scientists, more and more these days, quantum scientists, theoretical physicists and all the rest of it, they're speaking about so many other dimensions that the average person has got no idea about. And these dimensions have been discovered mostly via math. The math states that they have to be there. And there's many things that we can't see, taste and cut with a knife that are actually here. It's kind of like, look, nobody would be able to quantify that there is Wi-Fi all around here, unless of course we had a device to pick it up. And so with these devices, knowing how they work, then that proves that the Wi-Fi is all around. But without that device, what actual apparatus would you be able to prove Wi-Fi exists? Only a transceiver, people. So, when we look at our bodies and our brains, we could very well infer that the brain, the human body, something is the receiver of consciousness. Spirit is said to enter into the body, and we're said to have a soul, and we possess consciousness, or we are consciousness, or we manifest consciousness. We don't know what consciousness is, but something's going on. Something appears to be it. So, this is why things get so very, very difficult for us to comprehend. Well, we don't even comprehend them. We're just hanging on to the shirt tails of the cosmos. Literally, we don't have any idea. But we have some sort of level of intelligence which enables us to speculate on these things. So, I've been putting the pieces together for all my life. And when I read the Old Testament, I was confronted with the great need to believe. Because if you didn't believe in God, then that wouldn't fare well for you. And so it's kind of like, well, if we can't really see God, feel God, hear God, we've just got to believe there's a God. Well, why would that make any difference to us? The differences are profound, because there's many things about this cosmos that we cannot sense. We can't perceive with our senses, because our senses are so very, very limited. And so, just getting back to the Wi-Fi then, you have to believe that there's Wi-Fi all around, otherwise I couldn't tune into the internet now. Now, I'm not on the internet, I'm just recording, but if I wanted to go onto the internet, then I'd have to use my data, and this data would be connecting to Wi-Fi towers all around the country, and this mobile phone, the receiver, would be working in unison with the towers, which works in unison with the large servers, which works in unison with electricity. You see, so everything is connected, people. Everything's just so connected. But in the Old Testament, belief. And so I'm like, okay, so belief is a very, very necessary requirement if you're gonna know God. Now then, just remember that, people. If you're gonna know God, then belief is a necessary requirement. So in the New Testament, Jesus is saying, if you tell that mountain to move, then that mountain will move, metaphorically, if you are a believer. Now, what does that say? That says that our belief creates our reality, if we really believe. And there's a difference between just saying we believe and really believing. So, what happened with this stupid thing? Keeps rising up. Is that better? Yeah, I had a friend many years ago who believed he was going to be a millionaire, and yet he never applied himself to that belief. He just thought it was just going to fall out the sky on him. One day he's going to wake up and he's going to be a millionaire. Well, for some people that does happen, with inheritance or winning the lottery or something like that, but for very few. But if a person believes they are going to be very wealthy and they apply themselves, i.e. in The Secret, the law of attraction, then becoming wealthy becomes exceedingly more potential, because we are actually really believing. We're not just fantasizing about belief. We believe in ourselves, we believe in our actions, we believe in our thoughts, and we believe in the achievement and the acquisition of so-called trinkets and artifacts from the world. So when I was younger, I had a great belief in myself. I believed that I could make it into the British full contact karate team, and I did. I believed that I could travel the world on my own and experience many, many great things, and I did. I believed that I could be successful in any business that I applied myself to, and I was. And so many of these things have stemmed from an energy. You have to have the energy with the notion. And it's like what Greg Braden speaks about, when the head and the heart become one. And so these are metaphors for the unity of the human experience. We have to put everything into it. We can't just be, we can't just have one foot in the race. You know, we've got to enter fully into the race. And if we look at people like David Goggins, you know, running hundreds of miles, because he doesn't accept anything less. And if we don't accept anything less, because we've got a deep knowing within us, which of course, no, if you haven't run 100 miles, but you believe you can do it, well, there's that extra energy and determination which is going to drive you on to achieve that. And then you could say at the end of it, I knew I could do it. Did you know? Did you really know, or did you think you knew? What's the difference? Because you proved that you thought you did know, and it turned out to be so, but did you really know at the time? That's the thing. Unless in some other dimension we've done it previously, and we kind of remember that, and so we know our ability. Now, 2 days ago I was cycling into town to go to a dental appointment, and when I was in my apartment I realised, oh shit, I've only got 15 minutes to make a 30-minute journey. And so I ran out the house, jumped on my bike, and I pedalled like a madman, because I didn't want to get there and then the appointment say, oh, you've missed your appointment. No, you were 5 minutes too late, 10 minutes too late. And I didn't know what the margin was, you see. I would have thought a reasonable margin for an appointment would be 10 minutes before they'd write you off and call the next person. So I'm cycling like a madman, and every single push of the pedal, my higher self is speaking to me, and it's saying, if you keep this pressure on, and it was really exhausting. I haven't cycled that hard in a long time. But this inner voice, this knowing, this belief said to me, if you keep this pressure on without releasing, without taking that pressure off, if you keep at this exhausting level, you will get to the appointment. And I'm like, holy fuck, I'm thousands of pedals away, and I'm pushing it, and I'm breathing really heavy, and I'm running red lights. I ran 100 red lights, people, and I'm dodging cars and all this different sorts of shit. And my water bottle fell out, and I didn't even bother to stop, because I thought, if I stop for that, I'm going to miss the appointment. I've got to keep this pressure on. What was it that was telling me that? And I reminisced. It was the same energy which has told me shit all around the world. And in particular, when I entered into full contact karate competitions, the voice was, keep the opponent under pressure. Because as soon as you take the pressure off, they get more confident, and then they'll start to deploy more of their tools. But if you keep them under pressure, if you are constantly kicking and punching them, and making them have to protect themselves instead of attacking you, then the fight is potentially going to go your way. So I knew that was very likely to happen. I got to the dentist, I padlocked my bike, and I went in, and I set an appointment for 10 o'clock, and the receptionist says, oh, Mr. Berry, we've got you down for 10 past 10. I went, really? Yes. I said, what time is it now? She said 10 past 10. I said, so the doctor hasn't called me? No. Waiting room's upstairs. I go up to the waiting room. A minute later, he came out. Mr. Berry. So I go, well, I knew that. I knew that was going to be the case, because this voice, this inner all-knowing, told me. And there wasn't any doubt about it, people. There was no shadow of a doubt about it. And I told a story in a recent video when I ran 19 miles across a mountain, across a volcanic mountain, to make it to the ferry. And I knew that if I stopped to enjoy the view for any more than a few seconds, I was going to miss that last ferry. And so I ran, and when I came down around one of the bends, and I could see the port, I could see the ferry coming in, and you know, it was way off on the horizon, and I'm like, well, I don't know how long that's going to take, but it looks a long way off. Let's say an hour, and maybe, you know, it's going to be less than that, but by the time it's dark, and then it's passengers off and passengers on, I think I've got about an hour. And I had this figure, and I kept running, and my feet at the time were bleeding because they were absolutely covered in blisters. As you can imagine, if I'm running in sandals 19 miles, then my feet are just bleeding. I just ran through the pain. You start to feel the blisters coming on, then they get more and more painful, more and more swollen, and then they pop, and then they're horrifically painful, and then you just go through it, and then the bleeding, and then they become numb in the end. You just mind over matter. I made the ferry just before the drawbridge was being pulled up. So in my life I've known many things like that, and that's why I'm saying that we have to trust our intuition, because our intuition is this deep, profound contact with the fabric and the matrix of the cosmos. Now, when I was going to America this last time, every single, I'll say bone in my body, but my intuition, my contact with cosmic God consciousness told me that if I did go, then it wasn't going to fare well. And I didn't listen to it. I thought, I just fucking whatever. I've just got to find out what the fuck this shit's all about. I've just got to put it to bed. It's been going on for 6 years. I'm tired of this bullshit. Just got to fucking, you know, put it to bed. to go over to see this person, so she finally gets in her head that, look, we're not compatible. We've never been compatible. It's always been a fantasy and a delusion. But it turns out that it wasn't even a fantasy and a delusion of her own. It was a manipulation. That's what it was. Just manipulating me, just seeing how far she can manipulate me, and that's all it was, people. Crazy, but the lengths some people will go to. Oh my goodness, what a story, what a story. So, belief, deep inner knowing. Now, the thing is about, let me just continue with this belief, right? Because when I was reading the Quran, on every single page in that book, it's about, you must believe. If you don't believe, you have to believe. There's no way you can't believe. If you don't believe, your whole world's going to be hell. Believe, 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 believe. It was so obnoxiously hypnotic. It was tedious. It was heinous. I absolutely hated the whole indoctrination process, and you can see how these people are, these Muslims, absolutely bullied into believing by their whole society and by all that bullshit. And good God, I just wanted to destroy that book. But I just kept plodding on, until in the end I got halfway through it and I just simply couldn't do it anymore. Okay, I've got the message, it's just a massive indoctrination. So, okay, I'm realising now, fucking hell, belief, 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 right. Now, what does this belief do when we apply it to God? And I did this for 6 months. I really put it to the test every single day. I started to apply this belief thing because I had the greatest of objection to it. And I wanted to know what was the difference between belief and faith. And I tell this whole story in my book, so I won't labour it now. Some of you, no, you wouldn't. None of you would have remembered it. You don't remember anything. At least everyone I've spoken to about the book, you haven't remembered a single thing. Maybe a couple of things that you think are relevant to you, but everything else you don't remember. And it's like, my God, I don't know what's happening with a fucking human being. I really don't. But so if you do have this faith, then what are you doing? You are hypnotizing yourselves. And that is all it is, people. If you have faith in Jehovah, if you have faith in Allah, if you have faith in anything on the world, then you are self-hypnotizing. And when you hypnotize yourselves, I don't like this fucking thing, put it down there. When you're hypnotizing yourselves, you are creating your reality, because this reality is only hypnosis. Now, the thing is about self-hypnosis, at least you're doing that to yourselves instead of having governments and societies do it for you. Like the famous saying goes, take control of your own mind, because if you don't, somebody else will. How are they going to do it? Via hypnosis, people, via propaganda, via the media, via whatever they want to sell you, whatever pop star they're promoting, whatever movie star they're promoting. Every single bit of it is hypnosis. They keep pumping it to you on the fucking screens and in the radios, and it's overt hypnosis, but it's also subliminal hypnosis, because it's always going on. And that's how they get you. So any of you think that this is a reality, you're just fantasizing. I mean, either way you're fantasizing. Either way you're fantasizing, people. That's the thing, that's the paradox. Either way you're fantasizing. Whether you believe in it or whether you don't believe in it. You know, if you don't believe in it and you look around and, well, your eyes are still seeing shit, your ears are still hearing shit, it's still going on, you can't get out of it. And so I was listening to something last night about quantum computers and you know, what happens to consciousness when we die. And you know, scientists are speculating, well, consciousness obviously, we think it continues, and so if it continues, it's going to continue in another dimension, and in lots of these dimensions, like in the DMT dimension, you don't appear to have an ego, or the ego is so overwhelmed that you don't know actually that you're there, because you've not woke up, and so you can't get out. You're there forever and ever, and it's a case of, wow, you know, where does our consciousness go when we leave planet Earth, when we are thinking that, hang on, there's a tree over there and I'm a separate human being, and all these things I can think about, and I seem to have autonomy, and I seem to be able to you know, make my own way through this thing, even though there's lots of variant energies trying to coerce me, pull me, push me, extract my energy. But if I'm switched on, then the chances are I won't be too much of an automaton, and I will think I've got some sort of semblance of free will, but then when you look closer, then it's kind of like very debatable. But believe, people. Now, I believe that I can be very, very slim and trim, and so I will be. I've done it before many times, and so I'll do it again. I believe that one day I'll be able to hold a tune, I'll be able to sing songs which people can't really find any particular mechanical fault with, you know, and then maybe they won't like the song or the voice, whatever, but they won't be able to say, oh, it's out of tune here, and that bit was flat and shit like that, because I'll be singing on key. And you know, there's many success stories, many singing tutors. They're not just born fucking perfect singers, people. They've put years and years and years into it, and the amount of times I've heard stories of tutors saying that, you know, it took them 10 years before people would stop laughing at them, and now they sing absolutely wonderful, and it's kind of like, wow. The transition is fantastic, and I've actually heard a couple of these play songs from, like, you know, 7 years ago, and it was bad, but now they hold incredible notes, and so it's doable. To what extent, you know, does everybody have a success story like that? Doubtless they don't, but I would think the vast majority of people are going to make some modifications and improvements, and if we believe that, as well as putting their effort in, because if we just believe it and we don't ever do any singing lessons or any singing tutorials, then the chances are it's never going to change, is it? But if we put the effort into it. So I made this video the other day which got a shocking response, because it is obviously vastly above the vast majority of you, because you don't fucking care, you don't want to get involved, you don't believe, you don't have the energy, you don't want to grow, you don't want to create, you're just plodding on like the fucking drones that most of the world are, just drones, and just watching people like me. What do you make of this stuff? You know, do you do anything? I'm asking you, do you do this stuff? And some of you like, oh, I've just started keto, or I'm starting back to the gym. How long does that last? I've been doing this shit all my fucking life. And so that's why you're watching me and I'm not watching you, I suppose. But we can change things, people. And what I'm always saying, you know, I did this video about excellence, striving for personal excellence. What do you want to improve on? Do any of you want to improve on anything? I look around and I go, well, in this gym, there's people that want to improve shit. That's why they're there. And where's everybody else? There's going to be like, you know, 50 people maximum in this gym. Where's everybody else? Why isn't there a queue down the street to this gym? Because it's not called for, because the vast majority of people don't give a fuck about self-actualizing. They'll just keep eating themselves into a mobility cart or an early grave and all this sort of stuff. And I was having a text conversation with one of the long-term viewers who, you know, we're talking cheese, you know, we're fucking Mars and Venus and all this thing. Well, we'll never, ever, ever see eye to eye. We just come from different fucking planets. The things I say are just not comprehended. And if this person thinks they are, well, there's no evidence of it from what I can see. But if you think you're getting something, then fine. But you're not getting what I'm actually imparting. What I'm imparting is evidently very, very difficult for the vast majority of people to get. It's just too complex, and it just requires a very expanded state of consciousness. And if you're not in that realm of consciousness, then you're never going to get it. You know, and that's just how it is. So, but let me just leave you with this, people. A myriad times in my life, I've known the outcome of my actions before I'd done them. Because of intuition, because of the voice in your head, because of this knowing, because of this belief thing. And I've created that reality. And I have this ability of seeing myself somewhere and doing something, and that's one of the criteria. People always say it. You have to see yourself there, you have to feel yourself there, you have to take your consciousness out and project it to that place. And this is the whole premise of astral projection, leaving your body. If you're going to have an astral projection, which is a premeditated out-of-body experience, if you're going to have that, you have to do this. And I did it for 150 hours, envisioning my spirit leaving my body very, very meticulously with every single thing as I'm lying in bed, you know, without scratching or breathing or blinking or anything for hours on end. I just keep going over the scenarios that my spirit is getting out of the body, and it's walking over the carpet, and it's going into the kitchen, it's picking this up, and it's making a cup of tea. You do all these scenarios of what you think you're doing in the world, in the conscious reality world. You keep doing that, and then ultimately what happens is that you kind of like trick your consciousness to believe in it itself, and then the consciousness goes on this journey. You leave the body, people. And so that becomes a reality in that realm. But in this particular realm, when we're doing it in a slightly different way, we don't leave the body, we stay in the body. We meet our future selves, the future self that we've thought about, that we've felt, that we envision everything. We meet that person. And goodness me, it's powerful, people. It really is powerful. And then when you know you can do that and how that works, then you look at this whole dimension very, very differently. What do you got to say about that? How many of you experience that? How many of you know what the fuck I'm on about? How many of you believe?